Is Alex Pereira's grappling really that bad?
Shama!
So there's this common belief that Pereira has absolutely no grappling and he's going to get mauled by Ankalaev on the ground. Now this claim has never really made sense to me because Pereira is a black belt. He has a black belt in BJJ, so it doesn't really make sense that he doesn't understand ground game at all. Otherwise, how would he have gotten this far? And I know majority of the people he's gone against were pretty much strikers, but still though. So I want to kind of just go through briefly his history and sort of just dive through if he really doesn't have grappling or if his grappling actually really isn't as bad as people say it is. So we know that Alex Pereira started kickboxing back in, I believe, 2009. He was a two-time champion and he transitioned into MMA in 2015. Now his first fight was a rude awakening. There is like no footage on this fight, but apparently he lost in the third round via rear naked choke. So I guess that was a pretty big realization for Pereira that he needs to work on his grappling if he's going to get far into MMA. And then he's had 3 fights after that, winning all those fights by KO, I believe. And then in his first fight in the UFC, he went up against some guy called Michailidis something bullshit. So pretty much this nobody. He goes up against this guy and he was struggling off his back in the first round, but he ends up winning in the second round via flying knee. So I think that fight showed again that Alex Pereira does have a weakness when it comes to grappling. Now his next fight was against Bruno Silva, and Bruno Silva took him down multiple times in that fight, but Alex Pereira actually was showing improvement when it came to the ground. I mean, he was getting up a lot easier compared to his other fight, and from there he was starting to lit up Bruno Silva on the feet. So I think that fight really showed that Pereira is learning. Obviously he's not an elite grappler, but he's still learning. Like, he's still looking to get better, which I think is obviously important as an MMA fighter. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why Alex Pereira has gotten so far, because I don't think Alex Pereira really has an ego. He's willing to actually learn. And it showed again in his first fight with Adesanya, where he actually showed a bit of wrestling and got a double leg. Obviously in the third round, Izzy was able to take him down and was able to lock in legs, and Pereira had quite a bit of a tough time getting back up. Of course, though, he ends up getting the knockout against Adesanya in the 5th round. But again, even though he was kind of out-grappled by Adesanya on the ground, who, by the way, Adesanya isn't like an elite grappler. He is a purple belt. So I could kind of understand why people think that Alex Pereira isn't really that elite when it comes to the ground. But I think he still did a really good job. And then obviously he had the second fight with Adesanya. He gets knocked out and then he moves to light heavyweight and he goes against Jan Blachowicz, who isn't really that much of a wrestler, right? But he ends up trying to take Pereira down, and we all saw in that first round, he takes him down. Pereira is having like a very hard time getting up, but then Blachowicz pretty much just gasses himself out, and Alex Pereira is able to light him up on the feet. And then from there, I think Alex Pereira has had like 3 or 4 fights, and none of those fights have involved grappling. They've all pretty much been striking. So is his grappling really that bad? Me personally, I don't think his grappling is bad. I mean, he's shown over his career that he's been improving and improving. And I'm sure that every single camp that he's had, even against strikers that he's gone up against, I'm sure in camp he's still been working on his wrestling defense. So I wouldn't say that Pereira completely doesn't have grappling. Now, would I say he's a BJJ black belt level fighter? I'm not so sure, dude. I mean, like, the thing is, when it comes to MMA, it doesn't really matter that much if you have a black belt or not. Because you guys gotta understand, like, MMA grappling is completely different because you're utilizing the cage, and there's certain things in BJJ and wrestling that don't really work in MMA. So I think just because he has a black belt doesn't mean that his grappling is like super solid. Like, that doesn't really mean that much. The biggest issue that I have with Pereira right now is that he's gone up against strikers in his like last 4 fights, so he hasn't really been grappling or gone up against someone who's been grappling in the light heavyweight division besides Blachowicz. So that might actually be an issue against someone like Ankalaev, who is a heavier grappler. And let me know in the comments below what you think about Alex Pereira's grappling, if you think it's good. And also let me know who you think is going to win between Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev. If you enjoy content like this, please make sure to subscribe. And remember, my boys, stay active, stay busy, and most of all, stay hungry.